Welcome back. So, today I have something really rather different for you. The last time I was at Lutz Antiques, they had this incredible assortment of mid-century modern pieces. And I thought, we really need to take advantage of this opportunity and take a look at mid-century modern, because I don't know when I'm going to have the opportunity to go anywhere where I can film so many different mid-century pieces. And some of these are really fine pieces. So, when we come back, well, mid-century modern is very, very collectible. And I get that because people tend to skip a generation in their furnishings. And so, whereas for me, growing up in the mid-century, that sort of 1940s traditional overstuffed la-la furniture, with the big floral patterns on the cushions and whatnot, that had no appeal. But by the time I hit my 20s, I was really beginning to appreciate the Art Deco and Art Moderne furniture, not of my mother's generation, but of my grandmother's generation. And for the young people coming up today, it's not their parents' generation that they're looking to. Their parents' generation is that bland stuff from the 1980s. Everything was beige. Like, everything was beige. I once lived in a gated community where they dictated what color you would paint your house. You can imagine I was very happy there. And they had like half a dozen earth tone colors. That whole community was as dull as dirt. Now, I didn't buy property there. I was just renting. Trying to think, I would rather have nothing but root canals for the rest of my entire life than buy property in a place like that. Ooh. But it was a thing. The generation of the parents of the people who are in their 20s, maybe early 30s, they were the 1980s dull as dirt, everything's beige folks. So the young people in their 20s and 30s are looking back to mid-century modern and like the kitsch, the sort of pop art stuff from the 60s too. And it always seems to work that way. It's like we disdain what our parents had, but we love what our grandparents had. And, I'm quite sure in one more generation, you're going to have kids walking around saying, oh, if only I could get a dull beige sofa. Ooh. But I think that's the explanation for why mid-century modern is so hot. But having said that, let's get right into the show. I'm starting you off with a piece that is not mid-century modern. It's mid-century, but it's mid-century traditional. But the reason I'm including it is this is something that was in every house in the mid-century. And believe me, just like this, we're talking an enormous box of furniture. Here you go. Oh gosh, do you remember these? This is from back in the days when people had stereo systems that were called hi-fis, and they were housed in these large cabinets. This is from 1962. It's $145, and the tag says it came from Montgomery Ward, and it all works. Really interesting. Total blast from the past. Yes, the hi-fi is this giant case piece with your stereo equipment, and very often there was like a cabinet to hold the records. Sometimes there was a television built into it. What were they thinking? I mean, this was just awful. And of course, I grew up with this sort of thing, this giant box in the middle of the living room that was like 3 times the size it needed to be, that just so it could be a record player. Good golly. But everyone had one. And it's one of those things that if you want to do a mid-century living room, you got to get yourself one of those, because nothing says mid-century like a hi-fi in the middle of the room. Okay, next up, this is just an amazing find, and it had just come in, so it wasn't priced out. Usually if there are prices available, I'll give them to you. In this case, no, it had not been priced out yet. Oh, and I cringe to think of how high this is going to go, because believe me, even if they put a very high price tag on it, it is not staying on their floor long. Take a look. Well, we have a set here of 4 tables, a coffee table, 2 end tables, those are the ones with the 3 steps, and an occasional table. It's this one right up here over in the back. It doesn't look like there's a price on it. It looks like they've just arrived. These pieces were amazingly popular back in the mid-century. The tiered tables, this is probably Formica. It feels like Formica, it sounds like Formica. With a wood grain, my goodness, I certainly remember this sort of thing from my childhood. Very, very collectible these days, especially if you can get your hands on a set of 4, and of course the condition is excellent. But the last time we took a look at mid-century pieces, it was a Danish modern piece, and I said that the thing that said mid-century to me about that piece was the splayed legs. And as you can see, that was a real thing back at the time. Legs that sort of splayed out from the underside. They sort of moved out at an angle. Very popular then. And that is probably the only time in like the entire history of furniture that legs like this were popular. Interesting. So is that mid-century or what? That is iconically mid-century. Those tiered tables were such a huge thing in the decorator magazines, but not necessarily in people's homes. However, when we think back to the mid-century, it's the images from the decorators magazines and the images from the Hollywood movie and television show sets that we think of as being the iconic mid-century modern pieces. So even though that was sort of, the cutting edge of style and wouldn't have been in every home, that is certain to sell like faster than lightning, because it's just so over the top mid-century. And I hope you noticed the splayed legs. That's a style element that was almost exclusively linked to the mid-century, mid-20th century. It was a feature of Danish modern furniture. So, in that sense, now in Denmark, these styles were coming out in the 20s and 30s. The Danish designers who gave way to, Danish modern and, all of our super mid-century stuff, those people were, gosh, they were way ahead of their times. So things like this in Denmark were about 20 years earlier. And that's where we get those splayed legs from. But they are just so iconically 50s. And I use that, by the way, as shorthand in dating furniture. I'll see a piece, I look at the legs. If the legs are splayed, mid-century. And, I don't think I've ever been wrong doing that. I think this set of tables is just sensational. And you could mix that with anything and turn any room into, a little homage to the 1950s. Next up, now this is a piece made by the Lane Furniture Company. And they're known for hope chests, but they're also known for very high quality furniture. Take a look. Well, this is a mid-century linen press, beautifully constructed. And I checked the tag, $425, and it's Lane, which is why the construction is so good. Lane was known for their hope chests, but all of their furniture was exceptionally well made. And it's rather surprising that some of their other pieces, for example, a piece like this with a lot of style, a beautiful mid-century look, why they were not more famous for the style of their other case pieces, aside from hope chests. But no, hope chests are what they are known for. But I think this is a beautiful piece. And there are a lot of other mid-century pieces here, so I think we're going to take a closer look at some of them today. That is a really interesting piece. You have the dresser on the bottom, you have the shelves and some drawers behind doors on the tops. Just an unusual piece of furniture. Beautifully styled, very sturdy. It's hard for me to actually convey that when I'm filming, but boy, you open these pieces up, the drawers glide smoothly, the doors open the way they're supposed to, and they are solidly built pieces. So that Lane piece is beautiful, very mid-century. Next up, these pieces were sold, and I have them, I think, on video from a few months ago before they were sold. So I might have a price somewhere in my archives on these pieces, but they are very mid-century. This is a style that would probably not be called Danish modern, but rather Scandinavian modern, because pieces like this were coming out of Norway and Sweden too. They came from Denmark first, but of course, their cousins in Scandinavia were running with the design. And you see little differences. If you get to know Danish modern and Scandinavian modern furniture, you can usually pick out the differences. And keep in mind, the Scandinavian modern furniture eventually led to what we now know as IKEA furniture. So, yeah, it's come right back in style again. So let's take a look at these pieces. So these two servers in the back, I've shown them before. The one on the right has drawers at the bottom and the open shelves and closed cabinetry at the top. The one on the left has a cabinet space, see right there, on the bottom, and the same open shelving and cabinets, closed cabinets on the top. But, of course, the configuration is different. Beautiful mid-century pieces. I'm going to have to check the last time I filmed these to get the prices because they are sold. No big surprise there. Lovely, lovely pieces. And of course, the lamps are mid-century. We've got the Venetian blind lampshade here. Asian figures, beautiful mid-century colors. Asian figures were a very popular motif in the mid-century, and the shade moves up and down just like Venetian blinds. That is something that was made from the old-fashioned metal blinds. And of course, over here, we have the mid-century poodles, and we have the TV panthers. Oh, we got more. Another TV panther. This is just, and there's another, mid-century wonderland, and of course, the flamingo mirrors. Really great. I mean, these were just, they're companion pieces. They are not a matched set in that, you know, each piece is identical and interchangeable. No, one has the cabinet, one has the drawers, you know, a shelf underneath, a shelf on the top. And these would have been in a dining room, probably with a whole bunch of equally Scandinavian modern furniture. Very, very nice pieces. And of course, they're gone. They're sold. Next up, this dresser. And this is the one I'm going to use for the thumbnail on this video because the profile of this dresser is really great. And this is something that really has a strong association with the mid-century because it was the mid-century that really went to town with this, and it's that profile. So take a look. So here is another mid-century piece. This is 235. It is a dresser. As you can see, the styling is a little more traditional in terms of the handles only. This configuration of the flat drawers, the curved drawers, that was very mid-century. Also, notice the upper drawers are set a little back from the lower drawer. Again, very mid-century. Mid-century furniture was incredibly interesting, and they really played a lot with what we think of as standard design. They broke a lot of the rules. This is a great piece. I think that's incredible. And pieces like that were, it was sort of the backbone of bedroom furniture, dining room furniture as well. You see a lot of sideboards like that, where the side drawers were flat, flush, and the central drawer would be bowed. And they just had the technology that allowed them to do this sort of thing fairly easily, and boy, they ran with it. So this piece, to me, is very iconically mid-century. Not in the same way the tables are, not because of the flashy, you know, atomic styling or anything like that, but because it's so characteristic of the novel things they were doing with furniture in that period. So this next coming up is a bedroom suite, and I believe this was something like 6 or 7 pieces of furniture in total. Let's take a look. Now, this is an entire bedroom set. So we're going to have to see if we can get some good pictures because it's all stacked together. Look at the curves in this dressing table. Same with the end table here. Now, this set is $8.95. Here we go. Oh. Notice the mirror is not framed. It's just a beveled mirror straight up with no surrounding wood. Definitely their idea of sleek furniture back in the 50s. We have a dresser over here with another mirror, and of course here, this is how we're going to take a look at that. Right here, this is the matching bureau reflected in the dressing table mirror. So, it was very lucky. And here is the headboard and footboard. And notice, the headboard has the same curves. The footboard is a little more squared off. I'll have to take a look around and see if there are more pieces to this set. But quite frankly, it seems to me that we've got plenty enough pieces as it stands. Terrific one-stop shopping if you want a mid-century bedroom. Well, a quick word about this one lone nightstand. Paired nightstands are something of a modern notion. The idea of having a table on either side of the bed is something that we take for granted today. But back in the mid-century, it really wasn't that much of a thing. You might find, for example, on one side of the bed, there would be the nightstand. The other side of the bed, there would be the vanity table. And notice that the nightstand is a perfect match for 1/3 of the vanity table. They would often do it like that. We have things that seem very ordinary, very standard to us, that were just, well, frankly, they're fairly recent innovations. The idea of an entire suite of matching furniture probably really didn't exist until the Victorian era. And in the Victorian era, you would get giant suites of furniture, a sofa, 2 upholstered chairs, half a dozen side chairs, a large table, something that we might consider to be a small dining table, that would sit in the middle of the room. They built their rooms around that giant table. You could have 14, 15 pieces in a Victorian living room suite, which is something we really don't think of today. But interestingly enough, they were not big on bedside tables. All right, so this bedroom suite, now, it's mid-century in that it was in the middle of the 20th century, but it's a little bit earlier. This is probably late 40s, early 50s. Nice lines, but you can see the strong Art Deco and Art Moderne, streamlined modern influences on this particular set. And I love this because it's a transition from Art Deco into mid-century. These are 2 styles I like. One I will gladly throw pieces into my home when I find them. The other I will not live with. See, for me, it's all Art Deco. Remember, that was my grandmother. But the mid-50s, when I was born, no thank you. I am not interested. But this is a nice transitional set, and it's really valuable as such, where you can look at it and see the Art Deco lines, see the streamlined modern. Art Deco, those mirrors probably would have been round. They're not. They're square, but the corners are round. So you can see the transition moving into the starker, sharp-cornered 1950s. I think that set is great. And also, of course, as I mentioned in that little final tag-along piece, the whole notion of a bedroom suite consisting of a bed, a bureau, a dresser, 2 nightstands. That's what we think of as a bedroom suite to this day. That was not well established at the time. That is something that became established in the 1950s. Prior to that, maybe you'd get a nightstand, maybe you'd get 2. Anybody's guess. Maybe there would be no nightstand at all. It's just very transitional furniture, moving from the earlier period into the more modern period, and the standardization that we kind of assume has always been there, but gee, no, it hasn't. All right, next up. This is not a mid-century modern piece, but like the hi-fi, it's something that was in virtually every home, so you need to see it. Now, this is a set of TV trays. What is a TV tray, you are asking? You would take a TV tray, set it up in front of you, and eat your dinner on it in front of the TV. Now, these are the legs of the table. You would flip it upside down, open the legs, and that's your little TV stand. And Stacy was just telling me they came as a set of 2. And unfortunately, one of the tables is missing from the other piece. This is $145. But again, look at those here. I'll get it this way so you can see. Look at those splayed legs. That was something from the 50s. And of course, eating your dinner in front of the television, that was just what the family did. Televisions were new and interesting and exciting, and people ate in front of them. Today, we would consider that rude, and we certainly wouldn't consider it family time. But for the average 1950s household, that was just serious, quality family time. So that is such an interesting set. Yeah, people sat lined up on the sofa with little trays in front of them, eating their dinner in front of the television. Honestly, that wasn't even considered bad manners. That was just what people did. I look back on that and I think that is a horrifying concept to me, that the whole family would line up. That's what we did. And that particular set of TV trays was high-end. Some of the trays were like metal trays on folding aluminum legs. You saw all kinds of stuff for TV trays. But I did want you to have an opportunity to see what high-end TV trays looked like. And of course, they were designed to just be shoved back in, like drawers, into a little piece that would have sat somewhere. In all likelihood, the television itself would have sat on top of the TV trays. I'm seriously too cool for school. But that is something that was absolutely ubiquitous. The TV tray eating in front of the television. Gosh, what was wrong with us? Well, this is why, my generation turned out so crazy. I'm sure of it. Next up, this is a piece that I've shown you before because it's stunning. It's a remarkable piece. But because it's just beautiful mid-century, I want you to take a look at it, so I'm throwing it in here. Now, I've shown you this piece before, a Danish modern cabinet. Note the splayed legs. Beautiful mid-century piece. And even though I have shown it to you before, since we are doing 1950s mid-century items, I couldn't not include this. It's a lovely piece, beautifully made. Now, if you'll recall, you push to open the door. Took me a while to figure that out. Our price on this is $7.95. And that is just a magnificent piece of mid-century furniture. that cabinet is a real stunner. It's just gorgeous. And this is furniture that, I can sort of respect from a distance, but I'm not personally in love with it. But geez, I'm in love with that cabinet. And how can you not be? This was the high end of mid-century Danish modern furniture. It was something that undoubtedly came from a very fine shop, might have even been a custom-made piece. Gorgeous. And you can't help but like that, even if you don't like a certain style. The high end, the really super la-la pieces are going to appeal to you because they're beautifully made. It's the best that the period had to offer, and this certainly was. Always worth taking a second look at. Next up, this is a Martinsville chest on chest, which is interesting because chest on chest is an old term. It's going back to the 18th century, but this is the same concept, just mid-century modern. Here we have another piece of mid-century. This is Martinsville, $4.95, and let's see how we've got our drawers. Oh, and look, this door folds back. We've got the drawers there, open shelving, drawers at the bottom. Very sleek mid-century styling. Martinsville was a well-known furniture company, a very popular, good quality furniture. And again, notice the way they broke the rules. We have this larger portion on the bottom, and then our smaller piece on the top. Mid-century was a very innovative time for furniture, and most of what we think of as standard furniture items came to us from the mid-century. It's a great piece, and that is what bedroom pieces look like. Remember the lane piece that we saw at the beginning of this video? You notice how, it was the cabinet doors and the drawers. The lane piece had open shelving and drawers, and the Martinsville piece, as you open it up, it just has drawers. That was a thing. That was like remarkably common. In fact, those pieces tended to be the man's bureau in the bedroom, whereas the wife's bureau would have been the smaller dresser, not smaller, but lower dresser. Of course, she would have gotten the lion's share of the closet space too, so go figure. Really interesting, but it's a style that you should know simply because this was what mid-century furniture looked like. When we look at furniture, sometimes we just get caught up in the style. But we should also take a look at the functionality, the way the pieces are put together, the way they are designed. And that design, lower chest down at the bottom, and then an upper cabinet on top, either, drawers, that would be a chest on chest, or in this case, the cabinet doors hiding the drawers, which is sort of the mid-century take on it. It's important to know those things because knowing that can often help you identify a piece of furniture, especially if the style is a little muddy, if it might not be so clear cut as mid-century. Helps you to figure out what the piece is and a good idea of when it was made. All right, finally up, this is interesting. We're just going to take a look at it and then I will explain it to you. So what we have here is a mid-century drop leaf dining table. We've got 4 chairs and this really interesting sort of mid-century contemporary china cabinet with the little sliding glass doors. There we go. It's a better shot of the drawers. Again, really interesting detailing. And very mid-century. Well, this is a mid-century dining set. And the thing that is so mid-century modern about it is not the drop leaf table, not the 4 chairs, very rather dull and pedestrian, but that hutch, the buffet, china cabinet, whatever. By the way, that was mandatory in a dining room in the 50s. You had to have a piece like that. You almost couldn't call it a dining room if you didn't. So that piece, that was very mid-century styling. I'm sure you noticed, because I pointed them out to you, the detailing on the drawers and the cabinetry and those sliding glass doors. That was just the height of modern furniture. And that's what makes this set a real standout. Table and chairs are, like I say, relatively pedestrian, but it's that cabinet that's the real showstopper. All right, so I hope you have enjoyed this little tour of the 1950s. As I say, I don't know when we are ever going to get that much really nice 1950s furniture all in one place at one time again, so I wasn't going to waste the opportunity. All right, let's see. I'm going to give you a slideshow. Audie is outside. They are doing work on a tree next door, and he's supervising. He doesn't know them, so he won't get close to their equipment. I have to watch. If he knows them, he might get close to the equipment, because that's just... Audie likes people, but these are strangers, so he'll probably watch them and supervise from a distance. He got a new cat tree today. This is always like an adventure. The new cat tree is very much like his present cat tree, and it's exactly the same style as the cat tree before. So he always gets the same sort of cat tree, but sometimes I'll shake it up on the style. So he's unhappy and suspicious. I haven't gotten rid of his old cat tree, so he's not like in a state of panic, but he doesn't know why the new one is in the kitchen yet. So we're going to have to work this out. It could sit in there, the two of those cat trees side by side, for a few days until he's comfortable with the idea that the new one is his and the old one is going away. But yeah, my cat doesn't cope well with change. What can I say? So I'm sorry once again he's not here. He was hiding out yesterday, and as I say, today he's off supervising workmen, but hey, it's hard being a cat. All right, slideshow on the way out, and I will see you Thursday night for Just Chatting, and back again on the weekends for our thrifting videos. Have a terrific week.